What's going on, people? It's your boy, the Boxing Lowdown here, and this is episode 92 of the Boxing Lowdown podcast, man. Delighted to be joined, as always, by the main man in the building, Mr. Laurie from AFTV. What's happening, man?
I'm okay, man. It's very hot in London today, so I'm at home. Settings is a little bit dark in here. I don't know what's up, but yeah. Hang on, let me see if I can try and get a bit lighter.
All good. We've already got people here in the building.
Is that worse?
I think that went worse, yeah. That's not too bad.
It's workable.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's good. But yeah, as I said, we've got a great show lined up today. As always, let me just first of all do the introduction. Shout out to everybody joining. Michael Maxwell is already here in the building. Big up, brother. All the people that joined, don't forget to hit the like button on the way in, share the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We got a packed show today, man. Quite a bit to get through, and I can't wait to get stuck into it, man. We've had some big news over the last couple of days, and you know what? Let's just, forget all the niceties, man. Let's just dive straight in. Let's talk about the big news. It was announced yesterday. Chris EUBANK Jr. and Conor Benn has been announced. It's official, guys. October the 8th, O2 Arena, DAZN pay-per-view. I have a feeling this is going to be a good chat here, because to the contrary, I don't think Laurie is as excited as a lot of you guys are. And I'll go to the comments. We've got K22 in here. We've got Francisco in here. But yeah, I didn't really feel your optimism as much as, I got from everybody else when this news was announced yesterday, Laurie.
Yeah, I mean, I hinted at it last week on your show. I'm not excited by this fight at all. I'm just really disappointed with this, to be honest. I know I can see why some people will be excited. I can, you know what I mean? But I must be honest, me personally, I've got no real desire to see this fight, man. I've got no desire. I would much rather see Conor Benn go down the traditional route of trying to work himself into title contention. This fight does nothing for that, does it? It does absolutely nothing for his welterweight aspirations, which is his true weight. We were being told that he was being carefully maneuvered towards a world title shot. And here we are segueing off into what's, let's face it, it's just a money grab. It's just a glorified money grab. The fans are being exploited. And you know what the shame of it is? The fans don't even seem to know that. You know what I mean? It's pulling at the heartstrings, using the two fathers as some kind of pulling power. Nonsense to me, bro. I see right through that shit. Absolute nonsense. Catchweight fight that means absolutely nothing, apart from the two fighters and the promoters and one or two other people who are going to line their pockets just by exploiting the boxing public. It's ridiculous, bro.
I didn't get the feeling I got yesterday amongst guys, hardcore nuts, casuals, was that, and even listen, man, I'm not going to front. I'm in total agreement. I guess some of the arguments that I'm going to put towards you are really just, playing devil's advocate, because I do agree with a lot of what you're saying. However, I watched Conor Benn's interview on Matchroom today, because they released it as soon as the fight was announced. The first point that I took from it was that he said that this is just a one-off. He's heading straight back into welterweight contention. Obviously, after this fight, we're seeing how dangerous that can be, though, for other fighters that have moved up in weight to drop back down. However, Conor Benn is young. He is 25 years old. And he said that, it's right back on schedule. After this fight, win, lose or draw, it's right back on schedule in the welterweight division, and his aspirations to winning a world title. So do we just look at this as...
So what is the point of this then? So what is it?
Well, it's a legacy. It carries legacy. The name does. I wouldn't say these two guys, but the name carries a legacy, obviously. It will be big in the UK.
Does it really? Let me ask you a question here. Be honest. Okay. Do you really care who wins this fight? Like, what does it mean? What does it prove? No, what are they going to do? Give out a sort of a lineal belt between the two families?
WBC, Mike. The WBC, Mike. The WBC, Mike.
It's just a cynical exploitation exercise. People need to know that. You know what I mean? It's just nonsense, bro. It's like, and I'm really disappointed in Conor Benn. With EUBANK, I'm disappointed, but I'm almost past that now because I already see EUBANK for what he is. He's just basically cashing in. Could call it cashing out, but he's just cashing out on the last leg of his career. You know, like some athletes, you know what I mean? They're doing that. A bit like what Serena Williams has announced recently that she's going to retire, but at least she's going to be competing in Grand Slam tournaments. Seems like Chris Eubank Jr., what he's doing, he realized a couple of years ago that he's not good enough to compete for a world title. So then what he's going to do now is just going to try and dream up some fights to make money on his way out of the sport. He's basically cashing out. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm very disappointed in that. But I'm just as much, if not more, disappointed with Conor Benn, if I'm being honest. Like, you told us, Conor Benn, that you were out there looking for titles. I want Boots. I want Ortiz. I want, you know what I mean? Where's that energy gone, bro? Where is that gone? Now you're going to segue into this little glorified YouTube bout, really. Okay, you're going to get a lot of money. It's going to get a lot of clout. But what does it really mean in the wider scheme of things? I would argue absolutely nothing.
Let's go to the comments here. Shout out to my brother Obes in the building. He says here, please explain what you mean by legacy. Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm obviously not, let me get this straight. I'm obviously not saying that these two guys have like that sort of legacy, like, because none of them have even been. Conor Benn, for example, hasn't even challenged for a top 10 live welterweight, and he's going up against a top 10 middleweight. So make that make sense.
Daryl,
let me answer this question. Let me answer this question. Wait. Let me just answer this question. Also, with EUBANK Jr., we've seen he's a 2-time failed world title challenger. So yeah, when it comes to legacy, I know that these two guys are not fighting for that. I'm just talking about the name, obviously, of the two, what their fathers held, and the fact that it was 30 years ago that they had their last fight, and it was a significant rivalry in British boxing. So that's more what I'm referring to, rather than the fact that they're carrying the name rather than what they've done in the ring. But that's all I wanted to clarify. But Obes basically said the same thing here. So he's in agreement with you, Laurie, that it's a circus cash grab using their dad's names. Big up Harvey, Conrad, I see you as well.
The promoters are cynically exploiting the fans. This match has no resonance other than some kind of curiosity factor. It's got no resonance. Who cares at this stage?
A lot of people do care.
Ben wins or not, or EUBANK wins. It means nothing.
I think you're underestimating the people. Like, you won't agree with it, but a lot of people do care. Like, they will watch it.
They will watch it. But, you know, it's funny because I think it was somebody, you might even have been yourself. We was talking, you said, yeah, but you watch it though.
Yeah, I watch it.
My answer to you was, yeah, but I'll probably watch 2 drunk guys fighting outside a pub as well. You know what I mean? So I definitely won't be paying for it. I'll tell you that now. 100% I would not pay a penny to watch this on pay-per-view. If I watch this fight, it's going to be because I've streamed it or I've seen it on YouTube, or I think AFTV might be doing a watch along and they might invite me to commentate on it. I think yourself as well, Daryl, DR Sports. So obviously if they call me to work on it, then I will. And I'll be saying what I'm saying now. Don't get it twisted. I'm not going to backtrack from what I'm saying just because I'll be working on it. Even working on it, I guess, is slightly hypocritical. I've got to admit that. But yeah, man, this fight does nothing for me. And I would add, and some people may feel I'm going a bit too far, but I'll try and explain what I'm talking about. I think fights like this are dangerous for the sport. I think that if we're going to go down this road, right, then I think fights like this are damaging the credibility and the integrity long-term of boxing. Because what you're finding is, you've already had Ryan Garcia come out of his nonsense a couple of weeks ago, saying that belts don't matter. I don't fight for belts. I fight for money. You've heard Mayweather and Bernard Hopkins chat some absolute ridiculous nonsense, contradicting what they'd done earlier in their careers by saying the similar things. You've seen Jake Paul out there making a mockery of the sport. and then that debacle with him and Rackman Jr., which is an absolute farce, by the way. And now you've got this, and all of these trends are just pointing to titles don't matter. Let's just dream up some fight that we think will capture the attention of the fans, and that's it. At least what KSI and Swarms and all them man do. At least you know what you know that's a different lane, yeah. So I can understand that. Those are YouTube guys doing their own thing. I can understand that. But when you get the professionals trying to replicate what the YouTubers are doing, that's when we're in a very sad state, in my opinion.
Going to the comments here, Harvey said here, I think Eddie has struggled to get a fight because of his poor relationship with the PBC, but because he promised a big fight, he just made the EUBANK fight. But that's Eddie Hearn's fault, isn't it, man? I mean, like, he's got to do better for his fighter then. Yeah. But look, it's a cash grab, but we saw this with Kell Brook and how it damaged him. You know what I mean? So it doesn't always work out, man. And as Obes is saying here, weight classes matter. So
weight classes do matter, but at least with Kell Brook, when he did it, he was trying to win a title, wasn't he?
Yeah.
A legitimate title. So don't get me wrong, it proved to be a foolhardy exercise, as we thought at the time. Kell Brook would no doubt use that term, I was daring to be great. You know, that every time a fighter loses now, that's what they seem to say. But you know what? To be fair to Kell Brook, if he had won that fight, he would have been classified as an all-time great. To step up 2 weights and beat a legitimate middleweight world title whilst a welterweight. Very few fighters have done that. Very few. So he was actually daring to be great. But this fight is a nonsense. I mean, they're going to weight drain EUBANK. They're probably going to not allow him to rehydrate over and above a certain level. And, you know what I mean? Conor Benn will just be trying to catch somebody that is severely weakened. And then you got Chris EUBANK Jr. who will be trying to weight bully Conor Benn. And for what? What title's on the line? What does this mean for the winner? Is it an eliminator for something? What are the 2 dads going to be on the undercard? I mean, it's just nonsense, bro. Like, you know what I mean?
Shout out to DS here. He said here, this is a fight that doesn't make sense for either fighter. I can only see it going one way, but with the history behind this and the magnitude of the fight, I'm gassed for it. Harvey says here, yes. I can't help my excitement for the fight, but I do agree with Laurie. He's spot on. So, listen, man, you imagine the promo machine that's going to go in overdrive nearer as we get to this fight, man. I anticipate this will be one of the biggest cards this year, man, for sure. Probably the biggest in the UK. In the UK, I'm saying.
You know what, though? You may be right, but it's a sad indictment on boxing, isn't it? This is actually quite sad, actually, that we're saying this. Because what is just a circus sideshow, you're saying could be the biggest event in the country this year, which, you know what I mean? Listen, it may well be an entertaining fight. I don't know how it's going to play out yet. I haven't really sat down and thought too much about it. And you know what? You're right. The build-up will be big. The 2 fighters are both very good talkers. They're both charismatic guys. They both can fight. So, yeah, you know what I mean? There is going to be that level of interest there, but I just think it's sad, man. You know what I mean? And like I said, especially with Conor Benn, I believe the hype. I thought this is... Because, listen, let's be honest, you know, Conor Benn has still got a lot to prove. We still don't know if he's actually the best welterweight in this country. Do you know that? We don't even know that yet. He's taken on the big challenges in this country, of which, let's face it, there are a few. You know what I mean? You had Michael McKinson last week. He was in America taking on one of the hot shot fighters in the world, and he actually did okay. We all knew he weren't going to win, but he went 9 rounds with Virgil Ortiz. A lot of people didn't think he'd go half of that. You know, so credit to him for going over there, for taking on a fight like that. He did his best. Who's to say that Michael McKinson couldn't give Conor Benn a real run for his money, maybe even beat him? You know what I mean? There will be a lot of McKinson fans who will say, yeah, you know what? We'd take that fight in a heartbeat. And I would much rather see, take away the old razzmatazz. Take away the razzmatazz. Yeah, I know about the money now, but take away the razzmatazz for 1 minute. Which fight means more? What would you rather see? Would you rather see McKinson and Benn fight it out for the British title or to establish who's the #1 fighter in Britain? Or do you want to see an overhyped, created catchweight fight that means nothing other than just to line the pockets of a few individuals?
So me and you would, but you go to AFTV studio and you ask the people in the office what they would rather. That's about 10, 12, 14, however many people are there, to 2. So the promoters are looking at it and thinking, well, yeah, them 2, they're going to moan, they're going to whinge, they're going to go on their podcast and whatever about it. But guess what? They'll probably tune in. And we've got these extra 10 to 13 guys that are definitely going to tune in. So that's how they're looking at it, man. That's just the way we're going.
I hear you. And I can't, sadly, I can't argue with that. That's the sad thing about it. You are absolutely right. And that's the sad thing about it. Like, you know what I mean? But you got to ask yourself this, Daryl. Where is the sport heading then? If you got one of the brightest prospects in this country, Conor Benn, yeah? I think everyone would acknowledge that. He's one of the, whether you like him or not, whether you believe how good he is or not, you would have to say that he's one of the brightest prospects we have in this country. And you see him going down this road, you think, where's the sport going? You know what I mean? That's what you got to ask yourself. What are we doing here? You know what I mean? Somebody make it make sense other than the money sense, the financial sense. Somebody tell me what's going on. Is Ben Whittaker going to do this? I hope not. Is he going to turn around in a couple of years' time and say, you know what, I don't really fancy whoever's got the title at the time, whether it be Baturbi, Bibb or whoever. I actually fancy a fight with, you know what I mean, a rugby player that's going to, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like, or a footballer. You know what I mean? Because it's going to make a lot of money and people are going to watch it and the pay-per-views are going to do well. And you know, I put my world title aspirations on hold because I could make a lot of money fighting a footballer.
Yeah.
Then are we going to say that then? Yeah, but you know, everybody will watch it. Yeah, but it's like, come on, bro. You know what I mean? It's like nonsense.
Comment here from Francisco. He says here, Daryl was probably a toddler, but Laurie, if there is a time, can you say a few words on how you experienced the BENN EUBANK fights in the 90s? Were you in attendance for those? Yeah,
actually, I was. I went to the BENN EUBANK's the rematch in Birmingham, I think it was. Yeah. And I remember I had a couple of friends of mine that helped Nigel Benn in sparring in the lead up to that fight. One of them is my mate Alan Baptiste. Shout out to Alan Baptiste if you're watching. And another guy I know, Tony Vellinor, who's a former ABA champion and professional. And he was in the same camp with Nigel Benn for a while. So, yeah, and I got to meet Nigel Benn through those two guys. So, yeah, that's in answer to your question.
We got Big T in the house, man. He says, no, Ben Whittaker is going straight for the belts. None of this fighting any names or anyone like that.
Go.
Make the money. He's going straight for the belts.
I hope you stick to that, Big T. Big T, now you've said it. We've got you on the record. So no backtracking, bro. You know what I mean? I don't want to hear no. Because listen, man, Ben Whittaker is an outstanding talent. He's got the look. He chats well. He's got the charisma. You know what I mean? Men and women like the guy. He's gonna do big things. We can see that already. Yeah. How disappointing would it be if in a couple of years he turns around and says, you know what? Let me just put my world title aspirations on hold because there's some cheap money to be made out here by fighting some nondescript fights against some YouTuber. You know how disappointing I would be with that.
Yeah,
I mean, so yeah, man. I'm glad to see that Big T's said that on the record. That's great.
Dia says here, I'm more disappointed in EUBANK than Ben. First Brooke, now Ben. Why is he twerking for the world twice? I think EUBANK has given up his ambitions.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He's cashing out on his career, bro.
Yeah, he's giving up on that.
That's why, in a way, I'm more disappointed with Conor Benn. You know what I mean? I'm more disappointed in Conor Benn because with EUBANK, I see the play. He's twerking for the bag. That's what he's doing. He tried it with Kell Brook. I thought that was real cowardly, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I thought it was embarrassing. Then Jake Paul.
The man's just beaten Amir Khan in one of the biggest nights of his life. Just about to retire. And then there you come along now. You should be fucking chasing. Sorry about the language. Sorry about that. should be chasing the top middleweights out there, the Charlos, the Triple Gs, and people like that, the Andrades, and you know what I mean. My man from what's my boy called? Janabek. Those are the guys you should be chasing. You're talking about chasing after a 35-year-old welterweight that's got 1 foot in retirement. You're doing your level best to try and get him out of retirement so you can beat up on a 35-year-old welterweight and escape out the house with some money. Terrible, terrible. And at that point, I realized, man, that he's got no real ambitions left in the sport anymore. No. He just wants to cash in while he's got a little bit of juice left. Shame on him, man. And you know what? With Chris Eubank Jr., it's kind of ended disappointingly, hasn't it, really?
Well, I'd say he hasn't lived up to the potential.
Yeah.
Because there was at one point where I thought, wow, man, Eubank Jr. could be a world champion for sure.
Yeah, listen, I was a big fan of his.
He wasn't out of his depth, really. I mean, I know he lost, he lost very close fight to Billy Joe. Groves, Groves, it was a bit more convincing from him. However, he never looked totally out of his depth to me. I mean, I thought that with a bit of fine-tuning, he could put himself in a good position to win a world title, especially considering how many there are nowadays. But listen, man, to be fair to him on the other side, he has made a lot of money he has lived up to his potential in that sense. Like he has, made a great life out of boxing. And that's really, one of the reasons why you're in it, other than the love of the sport, of course. So he has done well with that. And he hasn't disgraced his dad's name, really, has he? So
no, not at all. Listen, man, I was a fan. And to be fair, I still am a fan, which is why I'm so disappointed. If I didn't care about neither of these guys, then I would have just done what I did when I heard about the Jake Paul Hasim Rahman Jr. fight being cancelled. I was like, yeah, so what? Get them both out of here, man. I mean, both of those two going back and forth on social media is funny to me. Who cares? They both look clowns to me. You know what I mean? But I've got some sort of personal investment with these two guys because I was a big fan of Chris Eubank Jr. I was a big fan of their dads. I was a big fan of Chris Eubank Jr. long before it was fashionable. When everyone hated him and said, oh, he was arrogant and all that, I was personally invested in his career. I liked him. I've actually met him on a few occasions as well. Very nice guy. And I followed his career. I wanted him to do well. I was rooting for him. But this last year or two, man, I've just been like, well, come on, bro. You're better than this. You know what I mean? That's what I think about this fight. You two are better than this. Yes, you're going to make a lot of money. Yes, there's going to be a lot of people watching. So I get that. I do get it. Believe it or not, I do see what they're doing. But the feeling of disappointment is just overwhelming when people talk about this. I just can't think that this is a load of nonsense.
Last one on this before we move on. Who do you actually think is going to win? I heard the catch weight is 156, I believe. So does that weight drain Eubank enough for Conor Benn to win it? Or do you just look at it like, no, the naturally bigger man, a good big man beats a good little man in this sense?
I'm tempted to say what you've just said there, which is that the good big man will beat the good little man. However, have they announced any clauses? Like, is there a rehydration clause?
Those details haven't been announced yet.
Yeah, I see. I might have to wait to give my prediction until I hear if there's a rehydration clause, because it's one thing losing all that weight, but you can probably do it with a good nutritionist. However, if you're then not allowed to rehydrate, then that's when it does become very disadvantageous and could actually be dangerous to the fighter. Because, especially in a sport like boxing, when you're getting hit in the head and, if there's no water retention and stuff like that, it can play havoc with your health. So I want to know a bit more about that first. I don't know, to be honest. I've not really sat down and given it too much thought, basically because I was hoping that this fight wouldn't happen, if I'm being honest. And then now I'm being told it's definitely going to happen. Dates have been announced and all that. Then I guess as the weeks go by, I guess I'll have to actually sit down and work out. I mean, let's be honest, man. Conor Benn is the man with the juice at the moment, isn't he? Chris Eubank's last fight against Liam Williams, I have to say I wasn't that impressed. I've not that been impressed with him since he linked up with Roy Jones, if I'm being honest with you. I don't see any tangible improvements with him having Roy Jones on board, other than the fact that he's a good role model for him and he can help him in terms of his preparation and talking to him and being a mentor and stuff like that. But in terms of replication of skills, I'm not really seeing it, bro. So I think I might make Conor Benn a slight favourite at this stage. But like I said, let me see how the weight clauses are going to factor in.
Let's move on. Not for me, by the way. I see EUBANK Jr. beating Conor Benn, man. I haven't even put it in my mind that Conor Benn wins. But let's see what the weight clauses look like. Let's move on to Tyson Fury. Your boy, man, has now apparently unretired and has called out Derek Chisora. However, Bob Arum did come out today, as I say that, and say, don't take what he says seriously. That's not going to happen.
Do we ever?
Who knows, man? I mean, it's just, who knows with this guy? At this stage, it's whatever to me with Tyson Fury. Like, the guy he just chats constant rubbish every day. But, like, we're talking about it, and that's what he would have wanted. I don't think that this fight will happen, but what do you think? Do you think it might? Is there a possibility?
I'll tell you what, let's see Colleen Rooney versus Rebecca Vardy. How about that? Because that's a better fight than Conor Benn versus EUBANK and Fury versus Chisora. I mean, let me just say, Tyson Fury, all of those people, right, who had a go at me for having a go at Tyson Fury, I say to them, do you see what I mean now about this guy? Why I don't like him? Can people like try and rationally see why I've got no time for Tyson Fury? I respect him as a fighter. Obviously, he's a great fighter. But as a person and as a character, I've just got no time for it.
You know what the Fury fans will say to you? Do you know what the Fury fans will say to you? They'll say, Laurie, you're biting, man. He's got you on string. Like, he's doing it. He knows what he's doing. He's playing the media and you're falling for it.
You know what? They may well be right. I just don't like how he carries himself, bro. I just think he's an arsehole. I really do. And I might tell him that if I ever see him. I'll probably run a mile after him. But no, but seriously, man, the guy is just so annoying, bro. Like, when he came with this retirement nonsense, how many of us really thought that he had retired? Nobody.
No one.
And yet he kept pushing it, saying, I'm a Christian man, I'm a man of my word. I'm like, yo, bro, shut up already. Because if you was retired, you would give back the belts. Remember, there was a growing army of people online who were saying, if you're really retired, give up the belts. And he was, I'm a man of my word. I don't need to box. I've made more money, this and that. I've got concussion against Wilder. And if I say I'm retired, people should take me seriously. I'm a man of faith. And look, here we are now. He didn't give up the belts. He was never good. He was never retired. But perhaps even worse than that, he's calling out Derek Chisora, a man that he's beaten twice before, a man that he made quit when they fought last time. And now you seriously want us to come out and support that fight. Derek Chisora, a guy that, let's face it, should have been retired a few years ago now. Derek Chisora, who said he's not after titles, by the way. Derek Chisora has actually said that as well, isn't it? That he's not bothered about fighting for. He's another one. He said, I'm not bothered about fighting for titles. It's just all about making money. So you see what I'm saying, Daryl? The road that we are going down in boxing right now is actually, if you're a true fan of the sport, you should actually be quite worried about the direction of travel of boxing. It's actually not good.
Well, what do you guys in the comments think? I don't know if Big T is still in the building. Harvey, DS, Ash, any of you guys. What do you think? Do you think boxing is in imminent threat right now of fast becoming a sport that's not going to be taken seriously? Like, there's no governing body. People can run riot really and just think that, I want to go this direction, I want to go that direction. The ambition to win a world title doesn't seem to be there as much. And that was highlighted from Ryan Garcia a few weeks ago, where he's like, look, man, I don't care about the world titles. Like, I just want to fight Tank Davis for the money. But at the same time, we have to hold these sanctioning bodies to account because they can't be taken seriously either. The other day, Maurizio Suleiman came out and said, if Jake Paul wins, he's going to be in the rankings and all. So it's like, it's like a free-for-all. They're to blame as well, man. It's a lot going on right now. And I think I'm curious to hear what you guys in the comments have got to say about it. Whether you think boxing is, you know, heading towards a downward spiral? Or are we just being too negative? I don't know.
Listen, boxing right now is in danger of becoming a cesspool, man. Seriously. It's funny because we went for a little run a few months ago. We were getting good fights and we were quite optimistic, weren't we? We were saying, oh, you know what? This is great that some of the fights we want to see get made are actually getting made. And then all of a sudden there was talk about the Spence Crawford fight getting made, which incidentally hasn't been made yet. So that shows you that we're still a long way off from where we want to be. And then it just, the waters just got muddied again with all this silly nonsense. And like I said, you had Ryan Garcia coming out and openly saying belts mean nothing. And then unbelievably, he was being backed up by people like Bernard Hopkins, you know what I mean? Shamefully saying things like belts are only good for holding up your trousers when he was such a proud middleweight champion. That's how he built his legacy. And then fast forward a few years, just because you're part of that money thing, you're now saying that openly, like discrediting anything you've ever done in boxing potentially. And I just thought it was sad, bro. You know what I mean? And then, like I said, on top of that, you've got Jake Paul coming in, calling himself the savior of boxing because he's fought a couple of retired basketball players and UFC guys, you know what I mean? Ben Askren and Tyrone Woodley, who've never boxed around professionally in their lives, announcing him, awarding himself belts. It's just, oh man, it's horrible, bro.
Big up Chivo 214. I hope I pronounce your name right, man. He says here, I'm glad you guys have common sense and are not supporting every UK fighter's decisions. Yeah, for sure, man. Big up, bro.
And like I said, I am a fan of both Conor Benn and of Chris Eubank Jr., but I'm quite happy to go on the record on saying I'm very disappointed in both of them. With Tyson Fury, I'm past that because I've long dismissed him as a bit of a clown. And when I say that, I'm not talking about his boxing skills. I'm talking about the way he carries himself as a person. So all this stuff he's coming out with now does not surprise me one bit because I know what he's all about. Bullshit, basically.
Big T says here, promoters are just looking for the biggest shows and more subscribers as possible. And due to that, are using fighters to put on UFC type shows. That's the direction the sport's going in, man. It's not the same as it was in the 90s, you know, like.
Yeah, but the problem I've got with that, Darryl, is that it's lacking credibility. The integrity of the sport is being compromised by all this nonsense. You know what I mean? If it was a one-off here and there, I would still have a problem with it, but I would like, oh, okay, whatever. Let's just get past this and move on. But you see there's a trend developing now where fighters are coming out and saying, I'm not that bothered about fighting for world titles. I'll fight this guy for money and the YouTube subscribers. It's just like, it's you know what I mean? It's just wrong, bro. You know what I mean? Sooner or later, the sport will be the belts will be worth nothing. And then what? Like I said, let's put on Rebecca Vardy versus Colleen. I bet you if you put that fight on, Darryl, it will probably do more pay-per-views than BENN and EUBANK. I'll tell you that now. Seriously. Do you doubt me? So do we give them a belt, give them a professional license and call them champions as well then? I guarantee you, Darryl, I'll put my mortgage on it that if you set up a fight between Colleen Rooney and Rebecca Vardy and got Eddie Hearn and all else to promote, it would do more views than BENN EUBANK, Chris Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn. It would do more.
Big up Akwazi Boateng here. He says, big up Laurie. DS has said here, boxing is already down that dark road from when we have YouTubers involved. The sport has gone. It could be argued this is a legacy of the Money Mayweather era. And yeah, DS highlighted that to me before. I brought that to your attention off camera recently. And listen, I'm not blaming Money Mayweather for everything, but you have to say that, you know, a lot of fighters, up-and-coming fighters, looked up to him. And, you know, they kind of took that route as working smarter and not harder. Do you know what I mean? And from a boxer's perspective, from that, you do have to say, like, the way how promoters have robbed from fighters in the past and, you know, like, they're the ones getting in the ring. They've got some undeniable bravery that, you know, normal people can only imagine of. So when they say they want to go down this direction, like, they'll be like, who are you to tell me what to... Like, Eubank Jr., if he was watching this now, I'd say, who are you two to tell me what to do? I've paid my dues. I fought these guys. I've been in the ring against George Groves and, you know, these sort of guys. And now I want to cash out. Who are you to tell me what to do?
You know what? You're right. No doubt he would tell me that. And I would say to him, yeah, fine, you do your thing, but I'm not going to buy your fights. And if more people felt the way I did, Daryl, then that pay-per-view would be a flop. So next time around, the likes of Eddie Hearn, whoever else, would think twice about making such nonsense, because they're going to say, well, yeah, a few people will buy it, but the boxing crowd, who I rely on week to week, they're not interested. They've told me point blank they're not going to support it. So, you know what I mean? So sometimes, man, you got to get the balance right, bro. You know what I mean? I'm all in favor of entertainment. I'm all in favor of fighters getting paid. And the way to address what you've just said, Daryl, is to make the sport more entertaining. One of the things I've always said, because I do watch UFC, I was pretty slow in coming to the game, I must admit. I did have that bit of snobbery about UFC. I'm not going to lie. When friends of mine first started telling me about MMA and UFC, I used to turn my nose up here a little bit, think, whatever. But you know what? As I started to get into it more, I started to enjoy it more. Still doesn't compare to boxing for me, but you know what I'm saying. But one of the things I quickly noticed when I was watching UFC was the way that Dana White, who I've described him before as a benign dictator, he would match the top guys against the top. There's no hiding place. And that works very well for that business model, because what they will say, the best fight the best. Yeah, that's why you got Khabib fighting Conor McGregor. That's why you got John Jones fighting Daniel Cormier. That's why you got Kamaru Usman fighting Kobe Covington twice and stuff like that, you know, because he matches the best fighters with the best. Now, if we had that in boxing, there would be less room for this YouTube nonsense. They would have their lane and boxing would have its own lane. And the people who love the sport would say, listen, man, look at what we're doing in boxing. The best fighting the best. We've never had it better than this. You see, with women's boxing, isn't it, Daryl? One of the reasons why women's boxing is becoming more successful is because the better women are fighting the better women. Reference to Kate Taylor, Amanda Serrano. Great night of boxing, great fight, credit to both women. You're seeing that Clarissa Shields, Savannah Marshall. Another great fight on the undercard. Tremendous fight between Michaela Mayer and
Bam Gardner.
Yeah, Alicia Baumgartner. That's and that is going to grow the women's game by the best women fighting the best women, not some Dina Asher Smith decides, you know what, I've done with athletics, I'm going to take up boxing now, and you know what I mean? That's the equivalent of what's going on in men's boxing right now. Anyone's just coming in the game, seeing what clowns like Jake Paul are doing, and saying, "Yeah, man, I'll have some of that too."
Yeah, you're right. You're right. DS has said here, I didn't even have nothing to say there because you're right. DS said here, I don't see YouTubers getting into an octagon and fighting MMA fighters. These lot are disrespecting our sport, and it pisses me off big time.
I'll tell you something that really pissed me off the other day. And I don't know whether he meant to say it like that, but it just sounded all wrong for me. Jake Paul talking about I'm the savior of boxing. You know how disrespectful that is? This guy, he's a clown, bro. You've not fought one professional fighter yet. You manufactured that Hazim Rahman Jr. fight to absolutely drain the guy of any power and strength he might have had. Then you called it off when you realized that the guy might actually make the weight. The Tommy Fury fight never happened for whatever reason. You know what I mean? You've not fought nobody. You fought a retired NBA player. You fought two retired UFC guys, Ben Askren, who, when you saw that guy hitting the pads, it was actually embarrassing, Daryl. There's girls at my gym, right, that I sort of take on the pads. I tell you now, they would have given Jake Paul a better fight than what Ben Askren did. The guy looked retarded on the pads. And I'm sorry if that word offended anyone, but you know what I'm trying to say. And he was in the ring with Jake Paul, who was both taller than and heavier than him. Predictably knocked him out inside the round. And because you beat some bloody retired UFC guy who had a hip replacement as well, actually, before that fight, I'm now hearing. Because you're beating up on those two guys, now you're calling yourself the savior of boxing. Come. What other sport do you think he could rock up and do that in? And this is why boxing has just shot itself in the foot. You're allowing these clowns to come in the game and take ownership of the sport that we love. You know what I mean? Muhammad Ali and those guys must be absolutely turning in their grave. What you think of the legacy that Muhammad Ali was such a great sportsman that many people call him the greatest sportsman of all time, the most charismatic champion of all time. You get people from other sport constantly referencing Muhammad Ali. Who was your favorite ever sportsman? Muhammad Ali. Do you think they're going to say that about any of these guys around today? Do you think anyone's going to say that about Tyson Fury? With some of that clown shit that he comes out with. You know what I mean? Come on, bro. You know what I mean? I'm sorry if I'm ranting now, but I just...
I make a good point.
Chest, bro.
No, make a good point,
off my chest, bro. Jake Paul, disrespecting idiot, calling yourself the savior of boxing. You've not fought a professional fighter yet. You've beaten up on Ben Askren and Tyrone Woodley. And you're calling yourself the same, and he's saying it with a straight face, Daryl. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, but it doesn't help when you got professional fighters, respectable professional fighters, world champions, begging to fight him.
And you've got
like
Floyd.
He's got the game in the chokehold, man.
Floyd Mayweather fighting his brother, and then Jake Paul saying, "Yeah, Logan beat him. He just beat the greatest." I'm like, yo. And then Logan Paul's disrespecting Floyd to this day, saying that he raped him up and all stuff like that.
Here's a question before we move on. And Obes is kind of like, my question is around that. It kind of relates to it. But my question is, do we get angry at Jake Paul, or do we get angry at the fact, or at the establishment? Like, should we be angry that Jake Paul's exposing what boxing is right now? Because he has done some good deeds, like the fact with the undercard, for example, he paid, I think, 50% of all the fighters' purses that were, you know what I mean? Like, he has done that. So are we angry at him, or are we angry at the fact that he's kind of exposed how bad the state of the affairs are right now?
That's a good question. And you know what? Shout out to him for that. You know what I mean? Especially in that age where you got people like Don King, who still hasn't paid Daniel Dubois' money yet. Then, you know what I mean? He has done some good things for boxing. He's done some good things for Amanda Serrano. She swears by him. And listen, I'm not talking about that so much. And listen, he does have his own lane that he operates in. But stay in your lane, bro. You know what I mean? Stay in your lane. If you do those fights and you're making your money and whatever, I've got no real issue with that. It's when you're trying to take ownership of this sport and say that you're the savior of boxing. That's when I have a problem with it, because you've done nothing in the sport of boxing for you to make that statement. You know what I mean? With regards to some of the other stuff you said, yeah, I do think that because boxing is the wild, wild west and it's such a cesspool, that it's allowing guys like Jake Paul to come into the sport and gain some credibility. Because he couldn't walk into UFC and do that. I'll tell you that now. He couldn't.
Yeah.
Because Dana's got that locked down, bro. You know what I mean? He's got that locked down. But boxing, man, it's a wild, wild west.
Let's I feel like we could do a whole show separately on that, but let's move on to what over the weekend. We'll start off with Virgil Ortiz making his comeback after a good few months out, having surgery and everything else, defeating our own Michael McKinson in 9 rounds. Virgil Ortiz, good to see him back. I think the result was inevitable. I don't know anyone anywhere outside of McKinson's camp that thought he had a chance. But listen, shout out to him. He went out there. He went for it. He tried. Didn't work out for him. I think that if he had a bit of pop in his punches, he might have been able to do a bit more damage, but that's not him. So listen, he gave it a good go, but ultimately, I think the writing was on the wall. The pressure told in the end, and a 9th round stoppage win for Virgil Ortiz. Your thoughts on the fight?
Yeah, listen, I pretty much agree with everything you said there. Listen, boxing is like any other sport and many other genres of life. It's about levels, bro. And I think you saw straight away that Virgil Ortiz is a top welterweight, and he's levels above Michael McKinson. Now, don't get me wrong. Michael McKinson came in there. He said he was going to give it his best, and he did. And he actually did a bit better than I thought he would do. Although I'm struggling to give him a round. Maybe I might give him the first round.
Yeah.
But he was outclassed. Let's have it right, man. He was outclassed. The writing was on the wall pretty much straight away. And once Ortiz kicked into the gear, you could see the disparity in skills. That being said, though, I was surprised that Michael McKinson was able to tag Virgil Ortiz quite cleanly at times. And I wouldn't go as far as to say expose him, because it wasn't, I wouldn't say off the back of that you could say he was exposed. But I guess what I'm going to say is I'm looking at Virgil Ortiz, and I certainly don't think he's unbeatable. He's still a top fighter, but I do think that there's a lot of welterweights out there that would give him trouble, including, dare I say it, Conor Benn. A focused Conor Benn, one's not worried about catch weight fights and stuff like that. I think that maybe in a year or so's time, that could have been a potential fight for him. You know what I mean? But anyway, I don't know what he's going to do. But yeah, credit to McKinson. He went over there. He said he was going to give it his best. He did that. He didn't lay down. He said after the fight that the knockdown was due to him kind of like having a dead leg. He said he got hit in the hip and he kind of lost the sensation down one side of his body. Which, to be fair, when I looked at it, there is some plausibility in what he says there, you know, because even after the knockdown, you see that he was kind of trying to hold his hip and he was saying in his corner. And it did look staged to me. So listen, he did his best. But like I said, he was obviously outclassed, and you got to give him credit. I hope that he will get an opportunity to fight for titles in the future, whether, you know what I mean, domestic, European, whatever. So yeah, but he did show that there is a gulfing class between the two. And like I said, the other thing I took from that was that Virgil Ortiz is a long way from unbeatable because he's very catchable, bro. That's what I took from that.
Obe says here, I think people are going a little bit overboard. Ortiz was coming off an illness and layoff, and he's got a new trainer. All true points there.
Has he got a new trainer or has he got three? Because on that night, man, there seemed to be about three people shouting in his ear at the same time.
Where does McKinson go from here, though? Because I saw his tweet today. He said he's come back, landed back in the UK, and he said that all the contenders at 147 are already running. And I'll feel for him, man. I think it's going to be difficult for it to land those sort of fights, man. I think it will be.
I'd have loved to have seen him with Conor Benn. I mean, I don't think he'd beat Conor Benn, but I think he'd be a good opponent for Conor Benn. Because like I said, we still don't know, for all Conor Benn's obvious gifts and talent, we still don't know if he's the best fighter in Britain yet. We've seen fighters before that had hellacious power and looked great and knocking people out. And then when they've stepped up that level, they've been found out. I mean, Michael McKinson's got a very good win over Chris Kongo. Now, before that fight, you would have struggled to find many people who said that he would have won that fight, but he did. You know what I mean? So, and Chris Kongo is a decent fighter, as we know.
Blair Cobb was on the undercard, beat Maurice Hooker. Maurice Hooker did look poor, Nathan, man. I think he looked overweight. It just wasn't, you know what I mean? I think he's coming.
Are they 154s or 147?
147.
Yeah. What about Blair Cobbin with Conor Benn?
Well, that's not going to happen now, is it, man?
No, but you know that would be a great fight. Blair Cobb is a good fighter. He can punch. He's very charismatic. He's got plenty to say for himself. Can you imagine Eddie Hearn bringing him over here? The press conferences would be hilarious.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Now, that's the type of... I'll be way more excited about that fight than I would be BENN and EUBANK. What about
you're in the minority?
Stanionis, Boots. You know what I mean? There's plenty of guys that can give him a good fight. This thing about, there's no one to fight is nonsense. Thurman said that he would come here with the right money. Because obviously he feels confident of beating someone like Conor Benn. He said that's a fight he'd take.
Yeah.
So there's no excuses really, bro.
Ortiz Jr. is a brilliant fighter, but his defense has always been suspect. He loses to Spence, Bud, and Boots, in Diaz's opinion.
I agree with that. I agree. I think he is a bit easy to hit. He doesn't move his head that much. He's not got the greatest footwork either, has he? Let's be honest. It could be, you know what it is? I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I mean, sometimes, and this is no discredit to Michael McKinson, it just is what it is. Sometimes when you're in in with a guy that you know can't hurt you. Let's face it, McKinson's got 20-odd fights, and he's only had 2 stoppages on his record, which is, let's face it, one of the reasons why he was selected by Virgil Ortiz and Golden Boy. Right, so you put a guy like Virgil Ortiz, who's at the top of the welterweight rankings in there, with a guy that clearly he's not a big puncher. He's going to think he can take certain liberties. You could see after that first round, he thought, right, I'm just going to walk through this guy. You could see it on his face. That's what he was thinking. And in fact, in the corner, they were admonishing him for that. You know what I mean? So, but what I would say to counter that is that fighters can get into bad habits. And it's not the first time I've seen Virgil Ortiz do that. Because when he fought Green Machine, he was getting hit in that fight too. And I have to say that based on what I've seen so far of him and Boots, to me, man, Boots looks a level above him, just keeping it 100. You know
what about Mickey Conlan? Back in action over the weekend. I'm not sure if you caught the fight, but
I did catch up with it later. Yeah, it was a good win for him, man.
Knocked him down 3 times. Unanimous decision win.
And he admitted that he felt some moments of discomfort in there. He said that Conlan had hurt him. Sorry, he said that Mariaga had hurt him. Was it in the last round or something like that? He admitted that.
Yeah.
So yeah, listen, man, you know my thoughts on this fight. I thought that he'd come back a bit too soon. So, you know.
Yeah. Good to see him back. No, I wouldn't like to see him rush back into it, man. But, you know, good to get his confidence back with a win. Scoring 3 knockdowns, clear-cut win in Belfast. You know, like, fair play to him, man. But, yeah, looking forward to seeing how his career continues to pan out. There's still a lot to achieve, but just no need to rush. It was a bad loss against Lee Wood. So, you know, take your time with it. I mean, the talent's there, the potential's there, and I'm sure, like, his ability will get him to that level, like elite world level, where he does pick up a world title or 2, for sure. Big up YK22 in the building. Obes has said here, McKinson versus Marku. Florian Mark. Well, that's a good fight. I
like that fight. I like that fight. I'm a fan of Florian Marcus. I don't think he's the best fighter around, but I like his personality. I like the fact that he said anyway that he'd fight anyone in Britain. I do actually believe him. He's got a massive following from the Albanian community. He's a character, and he can fight a little bit too. You know what I mean? Do I think he's the best in Britain? Hell no, but he would make for some entertaining fights. So yeah, why not? I don't think McKinson would knock him out, would he? So
Chivo says here, those guys will never fight Virgil. I think he must be talking about Bud, Spence, and Boots, saying those guys will never fight Virgil.
No, that's cap. That's cap. Virgil said he wants that. Sorry, Boots has said he wants that fight. You know what I mean? To me, Boots is on another level, bro. I'm just.
You say that, but Virgil does have the best win of the 2.
What win was that?
Against Mean Machine. That's the best win out of that both of them have had on their resumes.
Yeah. Although, let's face it, man, Green Machine was coming off a beating from Terence Crawford. I think the Custio Clayton win is a very impressive win, man, for Boots. He knocked him out in the 2nd round. Didn't even get hit with a shot. Cleaned him out, bro. Listen, you know, like when you watch a sport for a long time and then you see somebody and you think, wow, this guy, man, he looks next level. That's what I feel when I watch Boots. I just look at him and I think it's going to take somebody ridiculous to beat this guy.
Nathan says here, I like all these guys, to be honest. Big fan of Virgil. Yeah, I'm the same. I like both of them as well. A lot. You know, it's a super fight one day if they were to meet. But where have we heard that before, man? You know, hyping up these fights and then they don't get made.
Well, we're hearing it right now, mate, with Spence and Crawford still not made. We keep getting told that, it's an announcement's round the corner, and nothing. This is what I'm saying about UFC. Had that fight been in the UFC, they'd probably be on their 3rd fight by now.
Yeah. Have to agree. What about this weekend, man? We got the return of Teofimo Lopez. His first fight at 140 pounds. He'll be fighting, is it Pedro Campo, I believe it is? Yeah. So yeah, he'll be making his return back into the ring. And listen, Teofimo Lopez is a guy. When he beat Lomachenko, had the world at his feet, man. You were singing his praises, really kind of really excited to see what this guy could become because he had the charisma, everything. He's still very young. Do you know what I mean? But he lost to Kambosos, going through a lot personally. Maybe this will be a new chapter in his career, man. And maybe, this is the start of it against Pedro Campo.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I've checked out Pedro Campo on BoxRec. I'm not going to pretend that I know anything about him because I don't. He seems to have a good record, although I did note that one of the fights he'd lost, or the one fight he'd lost, was against a guy that had a very spotty record, and he got stopped by that guy. Listen, they're not going to give him any animals, are they, in his first fight at 140? So I fully expect him to win. I'm looking forward to seeing how he gets on because he is a talent. And like you said, I was a fan. When he beat Lomachenko, I was high on him. The problem seemed to be one of maturity. When he won that fight against Lomachenko, man, he seemed to change. You had what was a confident individual just become suddenly totally delusional. And it was really bad to see. And then the problem I had with that as well is that he's got his dad, who you would think would try and rein him in a little bit. He was possibly even worse than Teofimo. You know what I mean? So it was a bit of a car crash, wasn't it? And then it got to the stage where when he fought Kambosos, I was actually praying for Kambosos to beat him. And I was thinking, rah, how sad is this? This is a guy I've been rooting for. You know what I mean? Had such a great performance against Lomachenko. He wins the title. Then he almost overnight turned it up into a complete arsehole. And I say that, I'm not saying that lightly. He really was. Am I wrong, Darryl?
No.
He really did put me off, man. And anyway, he lost the title. Now. He made a load of excuses, didn't he? Which, again, was just disappointing. A lot of talk. He said that, everyone had it in for him. It was some conspiracy to take the belts off him and all that nonsense. But anyway, he seems to be in a better headspace now. He's fighting on Saturday. I am actually looking forward to seeing how he performs. I'll be watching him closely to see the body language because he seems to look good in training. But training is one thing, going in the ring is another. Does he have any demons left over from that last fight? It'll be interesting to see, actually, that if Campos can make out the early rounds and make a fight of it, it'll be interesting to see how he responds.
I saw Oscar De La Hoya come out a day or so ago saying, we're moving on from Tank. We're now looking at Teofimo Lopez. They're not serious about the fight. We're looking at Teo. Ryan Garcia and Teo. That would be, that would be very interesting. But I'd definitely pick Teo in that one.
Yeah, so would I, but then you don't know if this is more cap from Oscar De La Hoya and Ryan Garcia. How many times have we heard this before? He's supposed to fight Manny Pacquiao. That didn't happen. He's supposed to fight Tank. That didn't happen. He called out all these other guys. That's not happened. And now here you are. You say you're going after Teofimo. Meanwhile, you're fighting Javier Fortuna and people like that and the Ghanaian guy. So, cap. You know what I mean? I'm not really that interested in Ryan Garcia until he steps up his level and starts fighting people, you know what I mean? That I can say, well, actually, yeah. But all this talking stuff, man, it's just doing my head in, to be honest.
Well, let's before we cut out from the show altogether, I'm going to share the screen. I'm going to let you have a look at your favorite publication, Laurie, as always. I always have to say that every time I go here. But the 140 rankings as by the ring. Now, Teofimo Lopez is heading into the 140-pound weight division. He's not ranked in it yet because he hasn't had a fight. But where does Teofimo, if he has a good win on Saturday night, do you see him challenging the likes of these guys? Where do you put him amongst the rankings? I know it's early to say that, but I saw Nathan, I believe, or someone say it earlier. 140 is pretty solid, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
So where'd you put him in amongst these guys, man?
I don't know, man. I think all of those guys above there would give him work, bro. I couldn't see him beating Josh Taylor. I think Josh Taylor would be too long for him.
Yeah.
Regis, that would be a hard fight. Ramirez would be a hard fight. Listen, all of those guys are quality guys.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at Gary Antoine Russell. He looks good. Jack Catterall looked good against Josh Taylor, didn't he?
Yep.
So listen, man, the division's got some quality guys in there.
Mm.
So it's not going to be a walk in the park for him, man.
No.
You know what I mean? He's going to have to prove himself.
It'll be interesting to see.
And you've got to remember as well that stepping up in weight, the guys are going to be bigger and stronger than they were at lightweight.
Yeah. Yeah. DS says here, whether it's Tank or Tio, Garcia gets clarted. And Nathan says here, none of those are easy fights for Tio. None of them.
Even Sandor Martin. You saw what he did to Mikey Garcia. And, you know what I mean? Sandor Martin is a good fighter. So, you know what I mean? He's not a big puncher, but he does have skills, got good footwork, fast, good athleticism, you know what I mean? And let's face it, Kambosos wasn't a big puncher, and he upset Tio, you know what I mean? So, yeah, there's a lot of work to be accomplished in that division, man. He's not going to have it easy by any stretch of the imagination.
A lot of work to be accomplished at that division, and a lot of work to be accomplished in boxing, it seems, after your rant earlier today, man. Listen, great show today.
Had to get it off my chest, bro.
Had to get it off your chest, but great show, as always. We're going to wrap it up there, though.
But I just want to say as well, Daryl, in closing, that everything I said there was me being utterly sincere. There's no cap attached to anything I said. I meant every word of it. I swore a few times. I apologize for that. But everything I said, I meant. As a man that's been watching boxing all my life, I'm so disappointed with what's going on at the moment in boxing, man. And, you know what I mean? I just hope that the powers that be will just get things together, man, and just, you know what I mean, do the right things, make the proper fights, eliminate this YouTube influence, and just get the sport on a proper level.
I can't see it happening.
Well, you know what it probably comes down to is if these guys, the so-called boxing guys, do their thing, then that will lessen the impact of people like Jake Paul anyway, wouldn't it? Let's be honest. Like I said, he couldn't come into UFC and do this. I'm pretty sure Dana White wouldn't allow it.
But
so
there's more governance. There's more governance in UFC. There's nothing in boxing like that.
Yeah.
It's not like football where there's FIFA and UEFA and or tennis with the LTA or basketball with the NBA. There's none of that, and there's nothing in boxing.
It's unregulated, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it.
And the so-called regulators are very corrupt. I mean, you said earlier that they were going to give Jake Paul a world ranking if he beat Hasim Rahman Jr. So why did they not give Kenzie Morrison that then when he knocked out Hasim Rahman Jr. a few months back? Why has he not got a world ranking there? It's just, you know what I mean? It's just nonsense and corruption and just grand larceny, man, in boxing. It's just ridiculous. So then it allows people like Jake Paul to come in with a bit of money and a bit of clout and just upset the apple cart and do what he wants.
I have to leave it there, man. But listen, great show again. Yeah, guys, on the way out, hit the like button, share the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Don't forget to drop your comments, man. Even after the live stream has ended, we do check them. Laurie checks them as well. Big up Physical Gamer in here, man. Good to see him here, my bro. All of you guys, man, thank you for tuning in. And we'll catch you guys on the next video next week, man. Take it easy. Have a good weekend. And we'll see you guys very soon.